Hey guys, Youngblood Fantasy 91 here with another commentary for you wonderful people. Well, it has been a little bit since my last commentary, and I have plenty to catch up on in terms of material, so excuse me if some of my material that I use is a bit outdated in terms of internet time. But anyways, let's return to the topic at hand. Today we will discuss about a dude that has been declared an internet lolscow for the longest time. He is a head-in-the-clouds Sonic fan who planned on making a Sonic movie and, just recently, had videotape footage of his fetish broadcasted everywhere. If you realize at this point that the guy that I'm referring to is MrChipmunkMobian, then congratulations, you win an Entenmann's donut. I swear, this guy cannot discern between fetish and lifestyle, because there are major differences between the two. I'll listen in and I'll see what I have to say about this.
Does anyone else find it endearing that after nearly 40 years that Sesame Street is still a relevant TV show for kids of this generation? And you know what? I'm glad they're keeping up tradition.
Okay, Mr. Freud, tell us about this guy. Ah, yes, he is a rather interesting case. He seems to utilize the defense mechanism of regression to transfer impulses such as nostalgia, as well as other repressed memories, into actions such as these. This can be classified as neurotic given his current mindset and actions. Thank you, Mr. Freud. You taught me well.
Hey everybody, this is MrChipmunkMobian here to give you a brief update about some of the current events that have been transpiring in the past couple weeks. I felt kind of compelled to make this video here.
So you decide to make a video about a fetish that you have and disseminate it all over YouTube, where all of your detractors reside, and thus gives them more reasons to criticize you. I believe the venue you chose was a poor choice, and the audience you trust in really is not in tune with your fetish. You could have just posted this in an adult baby forum where no one can see it, or at least done this video without baby clothes.
Since certain videos have leaked on the internet regarding my personal life.
No, they weren't leaked. They were posted by you and were later mirrored by everyone. That's not a leakage, that's just you being careless about what you post online.
And I wanted to take the opportunity to finally come out into the open and become more sincere about it, since for the past couple years or so I've been kind of in denial about the whole subject matter.
First of all, you're still in denial because you are utilizing a defense mechanism known as regression. Second of all, people criticize because they can. I don't want to go around dressing up as a baby because I feel that I'm a mature adult. I may feel nostalgic at times, but for the most part I feel like an older person, because I am not in overt denial of myself. Perhaps you're suffering from an identity crisis?
And I think that this would be the appropriate time to, clarify some of the misconstrued information that people have been projecting upon me regarding this whole adult baby lifestyle.
Well, the negative connotations derive from the fact that it is a maladaptive psychological problem. The last thing that the general public needs is to be associated with a mental problem or psychological malfunction, because they would be consumed in trying to figure out a solution to the problem since others find them out of place in society. The idea is to blend in with society's norms, not deliberately stick out like a sore thumb just because you are in denial of yourself.
But I guess the intent of this particular video here is to educate those that are somewhat ignorant of the whole adult baby culture, and just try to shed some light on some of the positive aspects of it rather than the negative connotations that are associated with it from the general public. So let's begin.
At this point, I want to recite a line from the play Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. We are all born mad, some remain so.
The mentality and physical attributes of being a toddler. And what you do is you just kind of provide the attire, like a footed sleeper or rompers or onesies or diapers, of course, and you just kind of create your own atmosphere like I have over here. And what you do is you just kind of transport yourself back into that innocent moment of childhood.
By regressing to an earlier stage of development because you are unable to live fully as an adult, I'm sorry dude, but resorting back to diapers, which implies that you are consciously, shall we say, incontinent, is disturbing because as children, we have been toilet trained, and I think we are supposed to learn that as a life skill, not something to be tossed away because your nostalgia overpowered your mental faculties.
And it's nothing more than just harmless escapism. There's nothing sexual about it.
Then why is it considered a fetish? If there is no sexual connotation, then why is it considered something pleasurable for your erogenous zones? Oh wait, maybe because there is a sexual theme behind it. Come on, you're using the same faulty argument some furries use to defend themselves. If it doesn't work for them, it's not going to work for you.
I know there's some AVs that do take it to an extreme level, but for me, it's a pure, tame recreation. The whole concept didn't really trigger my interest until I was 12 years old.
Stand on the edge of your seat, guys, because it's time for another long-winded anecdote. Yay! I don't even know what's going on.
And, well, a pack of Pampers just fell on me, and since we had a narrow hallway back then, it just knocked me against the wall. And I thought the whole idea was kind of funny, because it was diapers. I mean, you just laugh that off. It's like, what are these doing in here? And I put them away casually and just attended to my homework.
Which is a normal response, because I guess back then you realized that you were toilet trained and that you can control a part of your natural environment on your own. The idea of diapers was simply preposterous to you. If you were able to process it then, how come it's an impossibility for you now?
But back then I used to watch afternoon cartoons, because back in the 90s they actually showed cartoons in the afternoon, like Fox Kids and such.
Don't they kind of do the same thing now with Nick, Cartoon Network, and even the Hub sometimes? Though I will give you this, today's cartoons pale in comparison to that of 90s cartoons.
And what I found ironic about the programming that day is the fact that every episode of Bobby's World, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, they showed nothing but baby-related episodes, and that just kind of channeled something inside me just to experiment.
So, let me see if I have this straight. You were implanted with the thought of being a baby because of synchronicity. Well, friend, this again relates back to your psychology because you grouped two disparate events into something meaningful, and this drove you to regression. I'm wondering if you're not failing to realize that what's going on here is a maladaptive problem.
So what I did is I shut the door, closed the blinds, because I was so paranoid about it. Since,
this charming anecdote was brought to you by the letter H for hiding this from my parents because retreating to an earlier stage of development at this tender age is neurotic, and the number 9,000 for the number of times he imagined himself as a baby after becoming victim to synchronicity.
So what I did is I closed the blinds, I ran upstairs, and I was so apprehensive about the act I was going to take part in, because what I did is I was constantly looking outside, worried about a car coming up, pulling into the driveway.
Paranoia strikes deep into your life, it will creep.
My dad coming in or something. So what I did is I ripped open the package, I put the diaper on, and it was such an exhilarating feeling. I mean, it's so indescribable, I can't really go into detail about it. It's like it transported me to that innocent time of being a toddler.
Why do you find comfort in being a primitive being whose functions are arrested to that of babbling, eating, playing with annoying toys, and using your diaper as a commode? Seriously, man, you've been granted with the mental powers of reasoning, faculties, and an ability to think about moral issues, and to be honest, you even sound articulate. But you decide to eschew that and say, I just want to be helpless and unable to do anything for myself. I don't see the point in this. Really, I don't.
Skip it, you run to jump to hop. Skip it, skipping and a screaming and a bop to bop. But the very best thing
Flash forward to high school. This is when I started hanging out on AOL chat rooms, and yeah, it was so primitive back then because all we had was chat rooms.
And of course, what happened in those chat rooms gave the world its grand epiphany, that we have more sick fucks in this world than we have originally realized. Just wanted to point that out.
And I just randomly typed in diapers in the keyword search, and I was just bewildered by all these chat rooms involving people that like to wear diapers or be babies.
I refuse to believe that you typed diapers by chance. For all I know, you probably had this compulsion to type it in because of previous events and conflicts that you had. I refuse to believe, however, that you accidentally typed that in. You're only obfuscating the truth here, buddy.
But back then, I didn't even know what an adult baby or a diaper lover was, or even a baby fur, or even a furry, because these terms weren't really coined until early in the 2000s.
I suppose you could say that, but that doesn't excuse the fact that lots of people associated with these subcultures are involved because of a need to satisfy a fetish that they have. It's not all goodbyes and butterflies from these guys, no sir.
So what I did is I started chatting with all these other people, and I don't know, it just really interested me. I mean, yeah, I was involved with sports and other artistic activities. I played video games, listened to music, but this particular recreation just really gravitated my interest.
An obsessive compulsion to get pleasure out of something that you feel excites you. It must be your id energies acting up again, and when those id energies increase, you know you got a fetish on your hands. If you derive pleasure from something that does not normally associate with sexual desire, it's a fetish, and not a lifestyle. You may be more conservative in your dalliances with your younger self, but the idea of calling a defense mechanism a lifestyle is a very erroneous term.
Because it was just so unusual, but fun at the same time. So, when I was talking to all these anonymous people that I never met, some of them suggested that I try on baby clothes or throw in baby accoutrements like a baby bottle or pacifier, and it was so fun. I mean, again, it has nothing to do with any sexual arousal. It's not a fetish to me. It's all about role-playing. That's all it is. I mean, you're just trying to recapture that childhood spirit and just relive it for a temporary amount of time before you gotta engage in adult activities.
And yet some people in your community take it too far and associate it with sexual pleasure. And of course, they are participating in that lifestyle as well. When you associate yourself with a community that mostly engages in regression to satisfy some desire to be a baby and become diametrically opposed to the psychosocial development, then people will have to question that because it's abnormal psychology. There is no other way to describe it.
Like again, I have about a couple more minutes before I gotta go to work. Well, not a couple minutes, but like an hour and 35 minutes.
Since 95 minutes is exactly equivalent to several minutes. Again, you make perfect sense. Where do you get that intellect?
But yeah, anyway, I'm kind of getting off track here. So yeah, during high school, I kind of experimented a bit. I started buying adult diapers because, well, I obviously couldn't fit in baby diapers anymore. And then after that, it just kind of evolved into something interesting.
Or something that is considered an anomaly in psychological development. I know I keep bringing psychology into this, and I apologize, but really, how else can you attack this? You have a nearly 30-year-old guy trying to return to a more primitive stages of development just because of synchronicity, mental association, and going to venues where they produce plenty of sick fetishes online. You know, behaviorists point out that a fetish can begin through classical conditioning in which one associates a thing with a sexual impulse. Just wanted to point that out as well.
So then during college, that's when I started hanging out with AB communities, and I started attending all these AB get-togethers and parties, and I even threw some of them myself. And that's when I had my studio apartment, and I decorated half of my apartment into half a nursery. Because half of it was dedicated to more adult stuff, because I had posters of music and video games and movies, while the other side catered more to my childhood side. So you had Sesame Street, Rugrats, just everything that kind of represented my childhood, and I think I perfectly recaptured that atmosphere.
If you let childlike impulses overpower your daily life, then I think, again, you have an issue that screams neurotic origins. I'm just saying, man, the best way to rationalize your regression is to see a therapist. Don't project your conflicted self where everyone can see it, because plainly, you're stuck in one area of development and you can't budge from that. Freud would say it's fixation. Erikson would say it's an identity crisis. I would say that it is maladaptive.
So, here we are today. I'm still engaged in these activities. I just recently told my parents, my friends, and everybody that I actually care about the whole lifestyle, and they were pretty accepting of it.
After plenty of weeks of tedious explanation, emotions running high, and conflicts between friends. But of course, everything went hunky-dory for you, right? I know the same would happen to me.
So let's talk about the diapers. I'm sure that's one of the most central topics that people constantly bring up when it comes to adult babies. They always talk about, oh, that's unsanitary, oh, that's disgusting, oh, are you a pedophile? No.
Well, the reasons why these questions appear is because you are toilet trained. You have an ability to control a necessary part of the environment so that you can use the restroom. Incontinence is usually associated with not only babies, but with the elderly and people suffering from, say it with me, neurological problems. For God's sake, man, if you were blessed with the ability to urinate in a toilet, then for God's sake, use it. You graduated from diapers for a reason.
basically the diaper is almost like a piece of clothing. It's an article of clothing that completes the ensemble, because it kind of it helps emulate that illusion of being a baby. Because if you just wear the baby clothes and everything, you're just halfway there. But when you're actually wearing the diaper and, you know, drinking from your bottle and watching cartoons and cuddling with your plushies and everything, it just creates a warm, secure atmosphere that you kind of yearn for when you were a kid.
Then you have completed the regression process and you have become even more of a psychological anomaly than you already are. And of course, you have also inflamed your fetishism, but that's implied anyway.
And a lot of people are probably going to ask, well, do you kind of use the diaper for its intended purposes? Sometimes.
For once, I am speechless. You consciously are incontinent. What? Just continue the video.
But I do want to clarify that I absolutely do not go number 2. And there's several reasons for that. Number 1, it's just unsanitary.
But urinating in your diaper is. Again, you make perfect logical sense.
Skip it, to run, to jump, to hop, skip it, skipping and a screaming and a bop.
Sometimes I'll wet, but for these particular ones, you just can't do that because they're novelty diapers. And what I mean by that is that they're designed for aesthetic purposes rather than absorbency. I mean, what they do is they kind of recapture the late 80s, early 90s style of Pampers. They use the same material, the same designs. It's almost cosmic in that sense. They use 2 tapes instead of 4, and it just really completes the whole fantasy, and that's what I really like about it. I guess in conclusion, I just want people to have more of an open mind, explore new avenues, understand that life is an adventure. It's what you make of it.
Well, yes, when we're adolescents, we engage in new activities and even develop our identities, but trying to drive a fork in the road towards maturity and backtracking to a previous stage of life is counterintuitive to how we want to live our lives. We wish to live life forwards, not backwards. And living your life reminiscent of Benjamin Button can spark the curiosity of psychologists everywhere.
You shouldn't be bound down by societal rules just because you were conditioned at a young age that there's a certain mapped out way to live.
And yet you didn't condition yourself to believe that acting like a baby will give you satisfaction. You associated synchronicity to describe your origins to acting like a baby, so mentally you thought to yourself that the diapers falling and the baby-themed cartoons on TV had some significance when they probably didn't. Don't preach to us how life should be led like you're this beacon of authority, because that appears pretentious.
So just do what you want. Have fun. I mean, if people question it, just try to be reasonable, try to be rational, and explain to them why it brings you a certain type of contentment.
Oh, trust me, trying to explain my fetish for soda cans is relatively easy for my friends to comprehend. They would definitely look past that. No problem. And my parents? Don't even mention them, they'd be thrilled.
Hey, I just wanted to come in front of the camera in a more serious tone instead of in my baby tone, because I know some of those videos were a little bit unnerving.
A, you're still dressed up like a baby, so you project a somewhat strange baby tone. And B, unnerving? More like it demonstrates to us that you're a psychological marvel. It's creepy.
So I just wanted to prove that, yes, I'm still mentally here. And again, I do have a full-time job. I got a girlfriend. So I do have an active adult life as well. So this is MrChipmunkMobian saying, you're only as old as you feel. Bye.
And that's the way it is, barring the random editing where MrChipmunkMobian observes the buckets of rain coming down. So what have I got to say about you, MrChipmunkMobian? The fact that you are literally saying to yourself, hey, why not juggle my already extant adult life with deluding myself into living a child's life is something that eludes me. Adult babies in general elude me. When you develop as a human being, there really is a set path to follow in order for one to function normally in society. Unfortunately, when you stick out like a sore thumb in society, people take notice. I'm not encouraging everyone to be the same, But what I am encouraging is to at least have some modicum of dignity for yourself. Don't resort to baby attire and consciously being incontinent to satisfy some compulsion to be a child, because you're reversing years of psychosocial development. And for what? Because Pampers fell on yo face in stereo? Please. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this. This is Youngblood Fantasy 91. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you all in the brighter later.